everybody, and welcome to Betweenplays Stock Market Strategies. And today, I'm sure everybody's been waiting for this. BRW Brunswick Explorations, Killian Charles, CEO. How you doing, Killian?
Doing pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming back. Really appreciate it. We have a lot of questions. We started this new thing now. People that are on Twitter, co.ca, and all these other places. And I wanted to know if it's possible later. I have a few questions myself. If you'd be willing to take some questions from, let's say, the audience, some shareholders of yours and some potential shareholders.
No, absolutely. More than happy to answer questions they might have.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Killian, I saw your last news release, which was really interesting. We're talking about the Mirage project. Looks like there's some really good results, like over 1.7 kilometers and all this kind of stuff. I would prefer that you get into a little bit about that and just basically how do you see that project unfolding, and what's so important in that type of project, for geologists and stuff like that? What makes that project interesting?
Unique. Yeah. Mirage is a pretty funny project in terms of how it came to our table. It was a project that our chairman, Bob Wares, had been somewhat made aware 20 years ago when a geologist came into his office and slammed a big piece of spodumene on his desk and said, "What do you want to do with this?" And he said, "Well, I don't know. I can barely sell." At that time, Bob had the Wubushi project, could barely sell that one because there was no interest in lithium. This was in the early 2000s. And he remembered that this project was around. It had never been recorded in any official government database. So it sort of lay quiet that a geo had found a boulder that contained spodumene, had some lithium in it. He never assayed it, never did anything with it. And I guess just before we had to pull out of the forest fires, we set up the camp, set up a team over there. And in the span of an afternoon, for all intents and purpose, not only did they find the original boulder, this massive, metric sized boulder filled with spodumene, they found another, dozen of these similarly, like almost house-sized boulders, just absolutely filled with spodumene. And that's what really excites me here. It's the fact that we're seeing what has the potential of being a very large source, because I'm going to get a little bit technical here, but all of these boulders were found perpendicular to glaciation. That means we're dealing with multiple sources, i.e. when we say that it's over a kilometer long boulder field, it has the potential of coming from a source that's itself over a kilometer long. And then on top of that, when you look at the size of the spodumene, the lithium-bearing mineral, when you look at the color of the spodumene, when you look at the richness of those boulders, it's very exciting. Your coarse grain, big crystals, that often implies clean, simple metallurgy. When I look at other operations around the world, when they have similar size spodumene, it's the simplest one to recover. When you have clear, pale white, the pale gray spodumene crystals, that implies that it's a simple, clean concentrate that's produced from it. And then, seeing boulders that contain up to 50% spodumene, it's quite enticing, the type of grades that hopefully, once we do find the source, once we're able to go back there, once the forest fires are back under control, which I hope is going to be shortly here, it's going to imply a sizable source. So no, for us, it's something that's very exciting. That's why, we felt that we had to press release it. It's going to be a core component of the work that we're going to be doing in the fall. You have to remember that was always sort of the plan with Brunswick. We wanted to amass a large portfolio. Some of these were more advanced, projects that we already knew contained lithium. Some of them were being greenfield. And we took an approach of, well, let's see what comes up. Let's see what bubbles up to the surface, what's most interesting to us. Yeah, and that's always an evolving picture, and that's fine. That's part of this exploration process, to find the best potential project out there. We didn't want to get tied in immediately with any single asset. We wanted to work the entire field, and it's working in spades because it allows us to dovetail into a project like Mirage, which is now has every indication of being something sizable, of interest, and we're going to be putting a lot of our efforts going forward into that particular asset.
Okay, that's that is actually pretty exciting, and wow, basically don't even know what to say. That's really exciting, because the thing is that if we continue to look at Brunswick, and this is based off of our last conversation, which because naturally I think that every investor should weigh risk. Okay, you're gonna put your money into a company, but you got to weigh the risk. You got to look at what they have and everything like that. And what I thought was really interested, and what I liked about Brunswick, is that it's almost like putting money in, and this is what we were saying last time. It's like 15 companies in one, because the amount of pegmatites that you have, and to choose to drill and where to go. So I find that the risk is minimized with Brunswick. Do you feel the same a little bit with that? I mean,
absolutely. Look, we almost joke and call ourselves, internally, we kind of joke and say, oh, we're a lithium ETF to a certain extent, because we have so many different projects. But you know what? That's what is one of the toughest things about exploration. And it's something that, people look at the 10, 20, 30 baggers that they have, and they sort of forget that to get there was a lot of dogs, a lot of things that even with good teams didn't work out, because every company has one or two projects, and fingers crossed that, that's the one that works. But when you have like 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 odds, it's going to be tough to get there. It's going to be tough that you pick the right one. And with Brunswick, that's what we turned on its head. We said, well, let's have 1,000 projects. Let's identify as many opportunities, because we've never done so before in lithium in Canada, and give ourselves as many chances of making that world-class discovery and having a 10, 20, 30 bagger. And that's exactly what we did. So yeah, whether you look at it from saying, well, you can own a bunch of different early stage lithium exploration company, and hopefully one of them works out, and I hope one of those companies that you're investing in is Brunswick, or you can just own Brunswick and have all of that exposure. As you mentioned, we have projects of 15, 20, 30 other companies, all in a single company. And that's what makes Brunswick so unique relative to other grassroots exploration companies in the lithium space, but even other grassroots exploration companies in gold, in copper. It's just, it only exists in lithium, and it only exists in Brunswick. And that's why I joked, well, we're the lithium ETF, all inside one company here. You just need Brunswick, and you played all of your grassroots exploration. You don't need anything else.
That's how I see it too, and that's one of the big things. Like when I talk about Brunswick in my Telegram group, and people, let's say, will name other companies and stuff like that, I'm like, I understand what you're saying, but if because Brunswick has money, right? So when you look at it, I can't recall. Do you remember off ahead how much you have in the bank right now? Because I'm trying to remember off top.
We have over $14.5 million.
So exactly. So you have over 14 million and a half. I mean, you have a stellar management team. I mean, like you're a CEO. I mean, we have insiders like institutions like a Cisco Group and stuff like that. It just, to me, I find that the risk is minimized just because of all these things when you put it all together.
And I really want to highlight as well that, some of these people as you're talking to, these other companies that they're talking about, hey, look, they might have great teams, they might have great assets. And I really wish that, and I wish them all the luck, and I hope that they're successful, because
of course,
if we want to do decarbonization, if we want to achieve all these beautiful objectives we have to, clean up and decarbonize the economy, we need assets. So I really do hope that they make discoveries.
Absolutely.
But it goes back to what I said. When your odds are 1 in 1,000 that you actually have something real, you want to make sure that you're putting your money with a company that has the best odds of finding something. Right. So
absolutely.
They honestly could have that 1 in 1,000, project that works. Or honestly, odds are they don't, because it's 1 in 1,000. And Brunswick has the same odds, and we just have a higher likelihood. Again, it's a pure numbers game at this point in time. We
Absolutely.
have a higher likelihood of making that discovery.
Absolutely.
That's all it is.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. I'm watching now on the CO.ca. There's a lot of questions coming up, and there's a whole bunch of them in the Telegram group. I don't know if you mind if we just go into a few questions from them.
Bring them on. More than
All right,
happy to
let's
answer.
bring them on. Let's bring them on. Okay. So we have this question here from, so this is on Twitter, and this is from Twitter handle at Janny Now. So the question is, if and when will there be, of course, this was one, this is a very interesting one. Okay, it's about listings. So if and when would there ever be, any listings on any other stock exchanges, like, Australian, US, European, like what would we be waiting for? I guess the question is, what are steps? I mean, I know what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Look, these are long dated things that don't happen overnight. There's a lot of legal considerations. There's a lot of moving parts. I wish it was snap my finger and have it done overnight.
Yeah.
The OTC QB listing took nearly 6 or 8 months to get everything finally sorted and started trading. So, we're always exploring opportunities. We always have plans. I do like to tap into the Australian market, like to tap into the American market as well. There's a lot of potential new investors there, new opportunities to continue growing the company. Access to capital would improve. So we're always at the forefront and looking at different options on that front.
Yeah.
Are they going to happen overnight? No. Am I going to get this question a lot of times? Yes, and that's fine.
Yeah,
no, but it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. It's just these things take time to work ourselves through, and there are costs to them as well. It's not like it's a freebie for the company.
Yeah.
There are costs to do, whether it's time, man hours, or even just actual monetary costs. So we want to make sure that we're doing the best decision for the company and for our investors, of which, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, we all are. We are large investors of this company. And so we want to make sure that we're making always the best decision for the continued future of Brunswick, whatever that may be.
Well, that's perfect. We have another question here from PL. So, he's asked me on both spaces. So on Twitter, his handle goes by Risk Manager 1983. On CO.ca, it's PL. And his questions about, please ask him about Hurst Decoy, because it's very promising, 5% chip sample. So what's going there, Saskatoon, Manitoba, basically in general.
Yeah. So look, we've been working Hurst. We're also trying to manage with forest fires, trying to manage where we're going to be sending teams to, that's been a lot of juggling, so to speak. So right now we have teams that just wrapped up Manitoba. We're trying to do Saskatchewan, areas that are accessible right now. Hurst, we're currently doing a lot of prospecting. It's an area that's being actively logged. And so, we completed our drilling. We're doing a lot of prospecting based off the new logging that's been done. We've only done about 15-20% of the property as it stands right now. So to us, it's a continuous process across the board, and we're just trying to prioritize. If it was a regular summer and I didn't have any issues, we would have already been done with Hurst, but that's just not the case right now. So everything's a little bit slower because we're trying to finish up areas that are, quote unquote, more at risk of fires and things of that nature. Yeah. We can always come back to Hurst whenever we want. So that one's sort of tucked in our back pocket, so to speak. And we're trying to prioritize other areas before we come back there.
Yeah. And for all the listeners that, don't live in the Quebec area and, you're in Europe and whatever, just to let you know that, I mean, the forest fires are so bad that Montreal, which is in Quebec, was declared the most polluted city in the world just because the forest fires are so thick that you basically couldn't see 2 blocks away just because of the smoke. So,
and I want to point out, it's not just Quebec. It's not just Quebec. They're worse. They're horrible in Quebec.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong.
Right.
And we don't want any forest fires anywhere.
Yeah.
It's also Saskatchewan. It's also northern Alberta. So that's also complicating a lot of our work in those areas. So we're trying to we want to work those areas correctly.
Yeah.
So it's a question of just, okay, well, this area is open up right now. It may not be in 2-3 weeks. Let's slam it. Let's get it done as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, I don't want to say logistical challenges we're working through, but we're just trying to make sure that we're staying ahead of all of those issues. Now, I'm quite confident. You have to remember, to point out in Quebec, we haven't had rain in some of these northern communities for almost 2 months.
That's insane.
2 months without rain up over there. So it's not a surprise that they're dealing with major forest fires. However, the good news is that we had rain last week. There's rain again in the forecast this week. Things are slowly starting to improve. More and more fires go from being out of control to under control, mastered and dealt with. So slowly, I'm finally seeing some progress on that side. I'm quite happy to see the changes there. And I'm quite confident as well that, with given another week or 2 or maybe 3, we'll be back to opening up some of these areas. And again, what's going to happen is that at that point in time, we'll want to prioritize, catch up the lost time in Quebec, go back to Mirage, go back to Anatical, where we did some drilling, which we'll be releasing, the final sets of results shortly here. It's just a question of priority and just trying to make sure that we are always at the best space possible in our portfolio, and hitting the ground as hard as possible.
All right. I got 3 more questions. Is that okay? Or
yeah, sure.
I got 3 more questions for you. All right. So I don't leave these people out. Okay. So on CEO.ca, I'll leave my Telegram question for last. Okay. So the CEO.ca, the handle is Canadian Hollywood, CDN Hollywood. So what's your favorite project out of the 2 of the 3? I mean, talking about right now, I mean, look, the drilling results, there's a lot of stuff that still have to come in, right? I mean, to be able to answer that.
There still is. And my answer, look, Mirage is top of the pile right now. There's no doubt about it. But my answer has not changed. I wanted to wait until the end of this field season to have a proper decision as to, okay, this is my favorite project, right? Because I don't know. At the start of the year, I would have said, oh, yeah, Anatical is the best one in my portfolio. Plex, the best one in my portfolio. It's the most exciting one.
Wow.
But then go figure that, 3 months later, oh, no, this one is looking even better right now than, this one's good, but this one's better. And that's what makes me so exciting, right? It's just this fact that there's continuous discovery, there's continuous upside. Yeah. And so, sure, I will put my hand on the table and say Mirage is my most exciting project, and that's the one I want to get going as fast as possible. But I'd almost be doing a disservice to everything else I have in my portfolio. Look, it's still a priority, but there's still so many opportunities out there. There's still so much work to do. Yeah. And, the fun thing about Brunswick, we never said, we just want to find one. I'm greedy. I want more than one. I want to find a lot more than one. And so that's the whole point around it, right? And so I'm going to avoid picking a project, calling a favorite right now until we've done our field season, until we've gone through a first phase and said, okay, these are the projects that I like. And that's the most exciting part. That's why I tell people, and people all have their own decision as to when they want to buy or sell the stock and all that. But, when I look at Brunswick Exploration, I say, this is the most exciting time for Brunswick Exploration, especially when I get into going through the field season and into the fall, once we get all those results back, that's when we'll know whether we have something of, economic value and hopefully a world-class discovery.
Absolutely.
And, that's only 2-3 months away. That's pretty damn short. That's coming up fast.
Yeah. Naturally a lot of shareholders, sometimes they're, impatient and, but the thing is that there's a lot of times where people say, well, if I would have just waited, look at it now. So, we have to keep that all in mind, and what's great now is that the next question works perfectly with what you just answered, because basically the question comes from my Telegram group. I mean, it's not a lot, but it just transitions so well. And I'll have one more after that. But out of the Telegram community, so this is Will that asks out of the community. He's basically asking, basically two-part. At what point we would declare a flagship project? So you pretty much answered that. And like, what do you look for to basically, indicators to go drill one more, because you might think, oh, that might be it, So is there anything like that happening now, or I
So
think you get what I'm trying to ask.
yeah, and it's a great question, but it's really simple to answer, surprisingly enough.
Oh, okay.
For us, if it contains, like, it's a sorting process, right? So our first step, and I think I said this, last time or maybe the one before that. First step is does it have the potential of containing lithium or not? If the answer is no, then it goes out the back. If the answer is yes, then it moves further down the pipeline, if you will. And at that point in time, it's worthy of a drill hole, right? The second we can see spodumene, the second we can see a lithium mineral, then we know we are dealing with a pegmatite that is worthy to be drilled. Because based on what you see on surface, you won't know until you drill it.
True.
We call drilling the truth machine, and that has not changed.
Okay.
So every time we have spodumene, every time we have lithium, I can promise that we will be putting a drill hole on it, because we won't know until we've actually drilled it. Is it 5 meters wide, 20 meters wide, 50, 100 meters? We won't know until we drill it.
Absolutely.
And so for us, it's really, it's gradational. It's just a number of steps. Step one, does it contain lithium or not? If it's yes, then it's being drilled. Then it's a question of, okay, how big is it going to be? And that's where you need drilling. So no, it's a good question, and it's surprisingly an easy one to answer. And then on the final point, what's a flagship asset? Well, flagship asset for us is going to be one when we're drilling, 30, 40, 50 meters plus of lithium mineralization. That starts to be something that's going to matter, that's going to turn some heads, and that's going to be highly valuable to Brunswick and to our investors.
Oh, that's really exciting. That's really exciting. So let's go off on the last one. And this is from Bugseye, CEO.ca. So Bugseye. Basically, just curious, I guess, what is the method for news releases and basically corporate updates in general? So I just wanted to know pretty much how that works for you guys.
We've got lots of updates. Obviously, we've had to slow down a little bit, but our view has not changed. We like to have an update every 2 weeks, barring certain periods of the year. Obviously, I'm not going to put a press release between Christmas and New Year's.
No, of course not.
And we kind of had the same thing, July 4th, Canada Day. So
makes sense.
We're not changing from our strategy. Every 2 weeks, we like to have an update to the market and just keep people appraised of what we're doing. And looking at the pipeline, I see no reason for that to change anytime soon.
Killian, do you have anything that you might want to add at the end of the show here?
Well, look, to me, it's about going back in the field. I really want to make sure that these forest fires are back under control. We've got lots of team working, and I, wish them all the luck in the world to get it all sorted. And because we're itching. I can promise you my team is itching to get back out there on some of these projects. They made a lot of interesting and noteworthy discoveries in such a short amount of time. And it's a shame that we had to pull them out. Look, I perfectly understand the reason, but they're all chomping at the bit to be let loose back out there.
Well,
and
I had heard that they didn't even want
them.
sorry, I didn't want me to interrupt you, but I had heard that I was listening to John Kaiser's on Kaiser Watch, and he was saying how some of the boots on the ground, like, they didn't even want to leave.
No, exactly. They were attached to the project. We had to almost pry them out of there. So look, everyone's really keen. Everyone understands the potential, and they're motivated. That's what makes this so fun. Is that I know I have motivated shareholders. Well, I can promise that the team is just as motivated as they are. Everyone's bought into this. We all want to make these discoveries. We all want to find something new. We all want to demonstrate that, this is something unique, and it's shaping out to be the case, and that's why we want to be back now though in the field out there and banging on some rocks, landing on some outcrops, and starting in September or early October, drill bits turning once more and pulling out some core.
Oh, I like that. That's good. That's a good ending. All right, Killian, thanks a lot for taking questions from the people out there. That was really cool. And
I appreciate it. More than happy to do so.
That's awesome. And just hope to have you here again in the future. It's always a pleasure.
No, likewise. Pleasure to be chatting with you as well.
Thank you. Now, for all of the viewers out there, always remember: research, prepare, plan, execute. Do your work, educate yourselves. Thanks a lot, Killian. Talk to you next time.
Thank you.
Between Plays, it's the journey and what you do between where you are and where you want to be. Research, prepare.
Disclaimer: Between Plays has a contract with said company in this video at the time of recording. Between Plays only takes contracts with companies we believe have an opportunity to deliver a product or service based on our own research. That being said, always do your due diligence. Seek professional financial analysts when investing. This video is for entertainment, educational, informative purposes. See description for more information.
Between Plays, bridging the gap between companies and investors.